Million-Dollar Habits by Tracy. Ever catch yourself going through the motions? Wake up, scroll mindlessly through your phone, shuffle to work, eat whatever's convenient, collapse into bed, rinse and repeat. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice whispers, "There's got to be more than this, right?" Picture a young guy who dropped out of high school and couldn't seem to catch a break. He stacked lumber at sawmills until his back ached. He wielded chainsaws in the woods, slashing brush. He dug ditches in the scorching sun and scrubbed greasy dishes in the back of a tiny hotel. At one point, he even found himself as a galley boy on a freezing freighter in the North Atlantic, surrounded by nothing but icy water and uncertainty. When the laboring jobs dried up, he knocked on doors as a commission salesman, always one failed pitch away from sleeping on the streets. His life seemed like a dead-end road stretching endlessly into the fog. Then something shifted. Somewhere in all that struggle, he started noticing the people around him who weren't just surviving, but actually thriving. They seemed to have cracked some kind of code. So he asked himself a deceptively simple question: why do some people succeed while others don't? That struggling young man was Tracy, and his obsessive pursuit of that answer took him on an extraordinary journey across 80 countries, through thousands of books on philosophy, psychology, and success. What he discovered wasn't some secret reserved for the lucky few. It was something hidden in plain sight, practiced by virtually everyone who's ever achieved anything meaningful. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. By the time we're done, you'll understand the invisible forces shaping your entire existence. You'll learn not just what successful people do, but how they think, how they've essentially rewired themselves so that success becomes almost automatic. This isn't about positive thinking or lucky breaks. This is about a practical, proven system for fundamentally changing who you are. This is about building what Tracy calls million-dollar habits. The big discovery. So what did Tracy discover after all that searching? After traveling the world and devouring countless books, he arrived at a truth that hit him like a thunderbolt. You are exactly where you are because of the choices you've made. Now, I know that might sting a little, but here's why Tracy found it so liberating. If you created your current situation, that means you have the power to create a different one. You're not stuck. You're not a victim of circumstance. You're the author of your own story, and you can start writing a new chapter right now. And this leads us to the heart of everything. A staggering 95% of what you think, feel, do, and achieve comes down to habit. Just let that sink in. 95%. The moment you opened your eyes this morning, you triggered a cascade of automatic behaviors. How you got out of bed, your first thoughts, what you said to your family, your route to work, how you responded when something went wrong. Almost none of it was a conscious decision. You've been running on autopilot, following programs you installed years ago without even realizing it. The poet John Dryden nailed it when he wrote, "We first make our habits, and then our habits make us." Here's the game-changing conclusion. Successful people have success habits. Unsuccessful people don't. It's really that straightforward. High achievers aren't constantly battling themselves or relying on willpower. They've built habits that carry them forward almost effortlessly, like a current in a river. They've woven these behaviors together, strand by strand, until they've created something unbreakable. But here's the truly exciting part. Every single one of your habits was learned. Nobody popped out of the womb as a disciplined go-getter or a chronic procrastinator. These patterns were all acquired through repetition, and anything you learned, you can unlearn. You can replace it with something better. You're essentially the programmer of your own mind, and if you don't like the program that's currently running, you can debug it and install something new. History is packed with people who did exactly this. Take George Washington. We remember him as this dignified, gracious figure, the father of his country. But he didn't start with those qualities. He came from a pretty ordinary middle-class family. As a teenager trying to figure out how to get ahead, he stumbled across a little book called The Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior. He carefully copied all 110 rules into a notebook by hand, then carried it with him everywhere, reviewing it constantly throughout his life. By deliberately practicing these behaviors day after day, he literally shaped himself into the man he wanted to become. Washington wasn't born great. He built himself that way. Or consider Benjamin Franklin. He started as a printer's apprentice and became the first self-made millionaire in the American colonies. As a young man, he realized he was argumentative and rough around the edges, and that it was holding him back, so he decided to redesign his own personality. He created a list of 12 virtues he wanted to embody and focused on developing one each week. All week long, he'd remind himself to practice temperance or tolerance or tranquility in every interaction. Over time, these virtues became so deeply ingrained that they became his natural way of being, making him one of the most beloved figures of his era. These men understood something profound. You're not a finished product. You're a work in progress, a human becoming. Your past doesn't matter nearly as much as the direction you're heading. So where does transformation begin? If 95% of your life runs on habit, what controls those habits? The answer lies in your inner world, in a set of powerful mental laws that operate 24/7, whether you're aware of them or not. First is the law of control. You feel happy to the degree you feel in control of your own life, and unhappy to the degree you feel controlled by outside forces. People who see themselves as the primary creative force in their lives have what's called an internal locus of control. They feel powerful, confident, energized. People who feel jerked around by their boss, their bills, their past, or their circumstances have an external locus of control. They feel like victims and develop the habit of blaming others, which leads straight to anger and frustration. Next comes the law of belief, which states that whatever you believe with conviction becomes your reality. You don't believe what you see what you already believe. Your deeply held convictions act like a filter, bending reality to match your inner assumptions. The most destructive beliefs are self-limiting ones. False ideas you've adopted that whisper, you're not smart enough, creative enough, or disciplined enough. You think, I'm terrible at math, or I'm just not a morning person. And because you think it, it becomes true. Challenging these limiting beliefs is one of the most important things you can do. Start by acting as if you had no limitations at all. This brings us to the law of expectations. Whatever you expect with confidence tends to become your own self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't get what you want in life. You get what you expect. Successful people expect success. Happy people expect to be happy. They've developed the habit of expecting something good in every situation. Unhappy people expect failure, expect disappointment, expect the worst, and because the law is neutral, they usually get exactly that. But here's the kicker. You can manufacture your own expectations. Try getting up each morning and saying out loud, I believe something wonderful is going to happen to me today. The effect is remarkable. All these laws work together under the law of attraction, which says you're like a living magnet. You naturally attract people, ideas, and circumstances that harmonize with your dominant thoughts. Your thoughts, especially when charged with emotion, create an energy around you that pulls in things aligned with those thoughts. Think positive, exciting thoughts, and you attract positive people and opportunities. Think negative, angry thoughts, and you attract more reasons to be upset. Finally, all of these are summarized in the law of correspondence. Your outer world reflects your inner world. It's like living inside a 360-degree mirror. Everywhere you look, you see yourself reflected back. The quality of your relationships mirrors how you think about relationships. Your income mirrors how you think about money and success. When you put all these principles together, you arrive at the great universal truth that explains everything in your life. You become what you think about most of the time. Everything in your outer world is controlled by what's happening in your inner world. The incredible news is that there's only one thing in the entire universe you have complete control over: the content of your conscious mind. And that's all the control you need to shape your life and determine your future. So if you become what you think about, what determines what you think about? The answer lies in what Tracy calls your self-concept. He considers this the most important breakthrough in understanding human potential in the 20th century. Your self-concept is the master program of your subconscious mind, like the operating system on your computer. Every thought, feeling, and experience you've ever had is recorded there, influencing how you think and act from that moment forward. You don't just have one big self-concept. You have dozens of mini self-concepts for every area you consider important. How much money you can earn, how good you are at relationships, how creative you are, how well you speak in public, how organized you can be. And here's the critical part. You will always perform on the outside in a manner consistent with how you see yourself on the inside. This explains why some people seem to hit an invisible ceiling. They have a self-concept for earning, say, $50,000 a year. No matter what happens, boom times, new jobs, promotions, they'll unconsciously find a way to stabilize right around that number. It's their comfort zone, and that comfort zone becomes the single biggest obstacle to breakthrough performance. The key to unlocking your potential is to raise your self-concept in the areas that matter to you. You accomplish vastly more on the outside by changing your thoughts and feelings about yourself on the inside. So how do you actually do that? You need to understand the three parts of your self-concept. First is your self-ideal. This is your vision of the best possible person you could be, your hopes, dreams, and the qualities you most admire in others. High performers have crystal clear self-ideals. They know exactly what virtues and values they want to embody. People who struggle often have fuzzy ideals, which causes them to drift without clear direction. The more clarity you have about your ideal self, the faster you move toward becoming that person. Second is your self-image. This is your inner mirror, how you see yourself right now. If you see yourself as confident and capable before a big presentation, you'll perform that way. If you see yourself as awkward and inadequate, that's exactly how you'll feel and act. Successful people have the habit of mentally rehearsing success, feeding their minds with positive pictures of themselves performing brilliantly before any important event. Third, and most critical, is your self-esteem. This is the emotional core of your personality. Self-esteem boils down to one simple thing: how much you like yourself. And here's the magic formula. The more you like yourself, the better you perform. And the better you perform, the more you like yourself. It's a beautiful upward spiral. Almost everything you do is either to gain self-esteem or protect yourself from losing it. Your self-esteem is directly affected by the gap between your self-image and your self-ideal. When your actions align with your highest values, your self-esteem soars. When you act inconsistently with your best self, it plummets. This gives us an incredibly powerful tool for reprogramming your master program. The most powerful words you can use to build your self-esteem are simply, "I like myself." When Tracy first learned this, his self-esteem was in the basement. He was plagued by fears and doubts. So he started repeating, "I like myself" 10, 20, even 50 times a day. The impact was remarkable. Why? Because 95% of your emotions are determined by the words running through your mind at any moment. If you don't deliberately fill your mind with positive words, it automatically fills with worries and concerns. By building your self-esteem, you begin to dismantle the two core fears that hold almost everyone back: the fear of failure and the fear of rejection. These fears are learned in childhood. When we're toddlers, we naturally want to explore everything. But our parents, worried about our safety, constantly say, "No, don't touch that. Get away." We interpret this not as concern for our safety, but as a judgment on our competence. We start thinking, "I can't." This becomes the fear of failure. As adults, whenever we think about trying something new, our first reaction is, "I can't," and we talk ourselves out of it before we even start. The second fear, rejection, comes from what psychologists call conditional love. Our parents give us approval when we please them and withdraw it through criticism when we don't. We learn that to be safe and loved, we must conform. We learn to think, "I have to do what they want." This becomes the fear of rejection or criticism, making us hypersensitive to others' opinions as adults. The antidote to both fears is high self-esteem. The relationship is inverse. The more you like yourself, the less you fear failure and rejection. And the fastest way to build your self-esteem is to continually repeat, "I like myself." Once you start building this foundation, you can begin installing practical, million-dollar habits. It all starts with the master habit, self-discipline. Tracy uses Albert Hubbard's definition. Self-discipline is the ability to make yourself do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. Every act of self-discipline strengthens every other discipline, just like working out strengthens your muscles. One of the first places to apply this discipline is cultivating the habit of optimism. Optimists aren't born, they're made. They learn to become optimists by thinking the way optimists think. So what do they think about? In simple terms, optimists think about what they want and how to get it. Most of the time, pessimists think and talk about what they don't want and who's to blame for their problems. Optimists are future-oriented. They practice what Tracy calls idealization, imagining a perfect future for themselves. They use back-from-the-future thinking. They project forward to their ideal outcome, then look back to the present and ask, "What would I have to do, starting today, to create that ideal future?" They're also goal-oriented. They don't just dream, they crystallize their vision into specific, measurable goals. And they use a powerful 7-step formula to achieve them. Step 1. Decide exactly what you want and write it down in detail. Step 2. Set a deadline. Step 3. Make a list of everything you'll have to do to achieve the goal. Step 4. Organize that list into a plan based on priority and sequence. Step 5. Identify the obstacles in your way and focus on removing the biggest one first. Step 6. Take action immediately. Do something to start the process. Step 7. Do something every single day that moves you toward your most important goal. This daily action creates momentum and activates the law of attraction. A powerful way to reinforce this is the habit of daily goal setting. Get a spiral notebook and every morning Write down your top 10 to 15 goals in the present tense as if you've already achieved them. Instead of, I will earn more money, write, I earn X dollars by this date. This simple act, done daily, turbocharges your potential and programs your subconscious mind for success. Next comes excellence orientation. The truth is, to achieve something you've never achieved, you need to learn a skill you've never had. All skills are learnable. Tracy points out that in any field, there are usually only 5 to 7 key skills that determine most of your success. And here's the kicker. Your weakest key skill determines the height of your success. It's like a group of children going for a walk. The slowest child sets the pace for everyone. Your job is to constantly ask, what one skill, if I developed it and did it excellently, would have the greatest positive impact on my career? Once you identify it, make a plan, and work on it every day, you could be just one skill away from doubling your income. This leads to the habit of growth orientation or lifelong learning. Just as you exercise physically to stay fit, you must exercise mentally to improve in your field. Tracy offers what he calls the 1000% formula. If you improve your productivity by just 0.1% each working day, that compounds to a 26% improvement in a year. Compound that annually, and you double your performance in less than 3 years, and increase it by over 1000%, 10 times, in a decade. How do you do this? 3 simple habits. First, read in your field for 30 to 60 minutes every morning. This adds up to about 1 book a week, or 50 books a year. That's like getting a PhD in your field every single year. Second, attend seminars and courses regularly. You're responsible for your own development. Don't wait for your company to send you. Third, listen to educational audio programs in your car. The average person spends 500 to 1,000 hours a year driving. That's equivalent to 1 or 2 full university semesters. Turn your car into a university on wheels. These habits of mind and growth are the engine. The fuel is action orientation. In every study of successful people, this quality emerges. They move quickly when opportunity knocks. They have a bias for action. They've developed a sense of urgency. So now you've got the internal software running. How does this translate to the external world of work and money? First, if you work for someone else, you need to develop habits that get you paid more and promoted faster. The first rule: work all the time you work. The average employee wastes about half their time in idle chit-chat, extended breaks, and personal business. By simply starting a little earlier, working a little harder, and staying a little later, you can double your productivity and stand out immediately. The second habit: constantly ask for more responsibility. As soon as you've mastered your current work, go to your boss and say, I want more responsibility. Then, when you get it, do the job quickly and well. Get it done fast. This creates a reputation as the go-to person in the company, the one who gets things done. In business, results are everything. Finally, see yourself as self-employed. Act as if you're the president of your own personal services corporation, and the company you work for is your biggest client. Only about 3% of employees see themselves this way, and they're always the ones who get paid more and promoted faster. Now, what about building actual wealth? What are the habits of people who become millionaires? The most identifiable habit is frugality. Wealthy people are careful with their money. They don't buy new cars. They buy quality 2-year-old cars and drive them for 5 or 10 years. They live in average neighborhoods and wear average-priced clothes. They understand the difference between looking rich and being rich. The next habit: save and invest regularly. As George Clason wrote in The Richest Man in Babylon, the key is to Pay yourself first. Resolve to save at least 10% of your income, right off the top, for your entire working life. Open a separate financial independence account, and once money goes in, it never comes out. If 10% feels impossible, start with 1% and gradually increase it. You'll quickly adjust to living on the remaining 99%, and you'll hardly notice the difference. But here's a crucial psychological trick. You need to rewire your thinking about money. Most people associate spending with pleasure and saving with pain or sacrifice. Your job is to reverse this. Begin to associate saving and watching your account grow with pleasure and satisfaction, and associate impulsive spending with pain. The more pleasure you get from saving, the more motivated you'll be to do it. A powerful technique to accelerate this is what Tracy calls wedge theory. It's based on Parkinson's law, which says expenses rise to meet income. No matter how much you earn, you find a way to spend it. With wedge theory, instead of cutting back your current lifestyle, you resolve to save 50% of every raise you receive from this day forward. Since you're not used to having that money yet, it's much easier to save it. This one habit alone can make you financially independent over time. Of course, all this success in your career, in your finances, is deeply connected to your relationships with other people. In fact, 85% of your happiness in life will come from your relationships. The magic key to great relationships is making other people feel important. There are 5 key habits for doing this. First is acceptance. Accept people unconditionally just as they are, without trying to change them. The simplest way to express acceptance is to smile. Second is appreciation. Develop an attitude of gratitude. The most powerful words for this are simply thank you. Say it to everyone, for everything. Third is admiration. As Abraham Lincoln said, everybody likes a compliment. Admire people's traits, their accomplishments, their possessions. It costs you nothing and makes them feel wonderful. Fourth is praise and approval. Whatever you praise, you get more of. Praise people immediately and specifically for the behaviors you want to see repeated. And fifth, perhaps most powerful, is attention, specifically the habit of listening. This is a discipline. Listen attentively without interrupting. Pause for 3 to 5 seconds before replying. It shows you're giving their words careful consideration. Ask questions for clarification. A simple "how do you mean" can work wonders. And paraphrase what they've said in your own words to confirm you understand. Listening builds trust, and trust is the foundation of all great relationships. Finally, we arrive at the core of it all, the habits of character. The ultimate aim of life, as Aristotle said, is the development of character, becoming an excellent person. This begins with long-term thinking. Think about how you want to be remembered at the end of your life. What virtues and qualities would you want people to ascribe to you? Once you're clear on that, begin to act as if you already possess those qualities. The first habit of character and leadership is vision. Leaders have vision. Followers do not. They project forward and develop absolute clarity about what they want to accomplish. The second is courage. The willingness to take action toward your vision with no guarantee of success. You develop courage by doing the thing you fear. As Emerson wrote, "If you do the thing you fear, the death of fear is certain." The third is integrity. This is the value that guarantees all other values. It's the habit of living in truth with yourself and others. It means deciding what you stand for and refusing to compromise those values for anything. And the final binding habit of character is persistence. Persistence is self-discipline in action. Your level of persistence is the true measure of your belief in yourself. The more you persist, the more you believe in yourself. And the more you believe in yourself, the more you persist. Each time you push through adversity, your self-esteem rises. You like and respect yourself more, you become stronger, and eventually, you become unstoppable. In the end, it all comes back to that simple, profound truth: you are where you are because of your habits. But you can become anyone you want to be, because all habits are learned. You have the power to take complete control of your thoughts, actions, and character, starting right now. You can become the architect of your own destiny. You can build, for yourself, a life of million-dollar habits. Final thoughts. As we wrap up this journey through Brian Tracy's million-dollar habits, it's worth reflecting on why these ideas feel more urgent and relevant today than ever. We live in a world constantly pulling at our attention, a world of notifications, distractions, and instant gratification. In this environment, the idea of deliberately and patiently building good habits feels almost radical. What I find most powerful about this book is its relentless focus on personal responsibility. Tracy's central message, that you are where you are because of yourself, is tough medicine, but it's also the most empowering idea you can ever accept. It strips away all excuses and forces you to look in the mirror. It transforms you from a passenger in your own life into the driver, with both hands firmly on the wheel. This isn't about blame, it's about reclaiming your power. The concept of self-concept as a master program is brilliant and timeless. It explains why we so often get stuck in ruts, repeating the same patterns and getting the same results, even when we desperately want to change. We're trying to run new software on old hardware. Tracy teaches us that real change isn't just about modifying our actions. It's about upgrading the entire operating system. The simple repeated affirmation, "I like myself," isn't just feel-good fluff. It's a command that slowly but surely rewrites your internal code. If you take just one thing from our discussion today and apply it immediately, I'd suggest one of two things. First, try the 10-goal exercise. Tonight before bed, take out a clean sheet of paper and write down 10 goals you'd like to achieve in the next year. Write them in the present tense, as if they're already real. Then put the list away and don't look at it for a while. The simple act of crystallizing your desires on paper is incredibly powerful. Or start smaller. Start with the habit of self-esteem. For the next 7 days, every time you catch yourself in a moment of doubt or frustration, silently repeat to yourself, "I like myself. I like myself. I like myself." Observe how this simple act begins to shift your emotional state. Ultimately, Million Dollar Habits isn't really a book about money, it's a book about character. The money is simply a byproduct. As Jim Rohn said, the most important part of becoming a millionaire is the person you have to become to accumulate $1 million in the first place. It's about building a life, not just a bank account. And that's a goal worth pursuing, no matter where you're starting from today. We've journeyed through the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you make the journey yourself. The real magic happens in those quiet moments when you're reading the book, and a particular story or simple phrase lands in a way you didn't expect, sparking a new idea or resolution within you. This overview is here to help you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about has resonated, if you feel a desire to take more control and become the architect of your own life, then I genuinely encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can truly change the way you see yourself and the world. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you something to think about, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.